Okay, we'll start with a summary. The question is that there's a contradiction in the beginning of the pasuk at the end. That you will come to the land. Land means both desire and alacrity. Rotzen and merutza. So the desire you means that's avodah of the yid. But then it says, Hashem will give you. So is this desire achieved through avodah or is it granted from above? That's the shaila. So he answers, Hashem is saying, explaining the first thing. You should know that this desire that you have, this itself is given milamayla. But in order to receive that, there has to be the avodah before, and that's kisovi la'odetz. That's a rotzen apita ta'am v'das. So a rotzen that is based on one's self. He desires Yiddishkeit because he understands its beauty and he wants it. So that becomes a gilui for the Hashem for a deeper relationship that God grants. This is connected with, he explained the first two Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov, that he said to the Rebbe Rashav, that famous Friday night, Chai Elul Tov Rishon Beis. And he explained it as it's recorded in Hayom Yom, the 7 teachings that the Baal Shem Tov taught the Rebbe Rashav. But the shaila is, what's the connection to mitzvah bikurim? That's the context here. Lakachtem bereshis pri kol adama. What's the connection to bikurim? And also have to understand another question. In other words, the first question is, this is a general rotzen for a relationship with God. Why is it translate dafkne mitzvah bikurim and not anything else? Another question is that we see, now this is technical, that they need chumash in front of you, but as we explained, the connection between bikurim and what follows. What follows is a krisis bris. A krisis bris that Moishe Rabbeinu makes with a yidden, and it follows right after the mitzvah bikurim. Why dafka bikurim? Now he added, we see that there's a connection because the pashtus, the two separate parashas, but we see a very strong connection because the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, as we explained, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, it's 4 letters, but there's only 3 letters because the hair repeats twice. So there are therefore 12 combinations of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. As the Zohar explains, that these 12 combinations are expressed in psukim, Rashi Tevos, or even Sefer Tevos of 4 words found in Torah that spell out these 12 permutations or combinations, which amongst other things correspond to the 12 months of the year, the 12 Shvatim. Now we see it over here because he says, Utvash, that's how it ends Bikurim, and then it begins, V'hoi avai lekecha. Then it begins with, Hayem Hazeh Hashem. So we see, Vav, Hey, Yud. Dvash Hayem Hazeh Havai, which is Yud. So that's one siduf, that's one combination. So how does it begin? It begins with the last letter of Bikurim, of a Dvash. So obviously it's connected. So what's the connection? Before he makes the krisis bris, that's why it doesn't say which day, because it doesn't say which day it is. It's the day, Kisovei La'oretz. It's now pre-entering to the land, is making this krisis bris. So what's the connection to the mitzvah of Bikurim Dafke? And then he added, there's a krisis bris in space. That's actually still before going into Israel. And in time, that's Rosh Hashanah. That's why we always read Vaya Kisovei before Rosh Hashanah, because of this krisis bris. And you enter into the covenant. So Rosh Hashanah is a renewal of the covenant to, as he goes on to say, to fulfill all of God's laws. So his Gimel began the explanation. Based on the Alter Rebbe, a strange medrash, the Alter Rebbe says that Moishe saw the Ruach HaKodesh, the Mishkan, should be destroyed, so he's misakin, and there will not be Bikurim, so he's misakin in its place that Yiddish should have 3 times a day. So you have to understand what's the connection to the tefillah 3 times a day to Bikurim, specific mitzvah. Mele Korbanos. We understand? But why Bikurim? So he started to answer already. He started to answer the question. The second paragraph is Gimel. Started again. I see, says God, your forefathers, like a fig that grows on that grows. When it first appears, the first fig can be kurat potato, the first fig. So what's the of the metaphor here of a first fig? The first fig in its beginning of its growth. So I see, that's how I view your forefathers. What's the Indian here? So Chazal say that of is all of machshava, that the thought of the office arose in Hashem's thought, lead bodies to create them, before creation. We say this in the Haggadah, that your forefathers lived on the other side of the river. What's the other side of the river? That's why the Rambam is called an Ivri. The Heindel, what's the river? The river, Pashtus is the Euphrates River. The river is the river Ayetzim Eda, which flows out of Eden. It's also Begashemis. So higher than, I see, Beaver, I know, Yosha Vazecha means that the Neshamas of Eden are higher than Ishtalshalas. It's not just, as we just said before, all Yidden, even though the Pasuk says, it goes on all Yidden. Not just your forefathers, all Yidden are called Bikurim. Meaning, why? All of Machshava, because the Neshama of every year descended before creation, higher than creation. Sorry, so we said so far, the Inyan of Bikurim goes on the Inyan of its first fruit, primary and primal. It means higher than Ishtalshalas. That's where Neshamas Yisrael, Lavasechem, and every year are rooted. So already getting a sense of the significance of Bikurim. That sets it apart from all mitzvahs. Now more detail, Vini Bikurim Kedim Truma, up to here. So when a person separates, the various separations he's obligated to separate. So the Mishnah says, what's the order of things? First Bikurim that he brings to the Beis Hamikdash, and then Truma given to the Kohen. Why that order? The Truma is more sanctified. There are many more strict laws that apply to Truma. But Truma, Truma refers to Torah, which is also called Reishis. As Rashi says, but he brings you the Pasuk, Mishakos Hashem, Kanani Reishis Darka. Hashem acquired it at the beginning of his way, and that's the Inyan of what? Of Reishis. So Truma also precedes creation. Torah precedes creation as well. Kadisa b'medrash, v'ikchali truma, the pasuk v'ikchali truma. The medrash is asking, you don't take truma, you give truma. So the medrash answers, I've given you a very good portion, and that's my Torah. That's v'ikchali truma. But truma, moreover, another medrash, I know Torah mem, truma breaks up to two words. Torah given 40 days, not a Sinai. Torah is given 40 days. So what precedes Truma? The mitzvah Bikurim. Even though Torah is also Reishis, and Torah is also precedes creation. And moreover, another diak here, so there's three measures. 1 in 40 is generous, 1 in 60 is somewhat parsimonious, stingy. And 2 in 50, 2 in 100, 1 in 50 is that the Mishnah suggests as the average gift that you give to the Kohen. 1/50, 2 in 100, 2%. So what's the remes of Reish? It's saying in the base Reish, so it's 2% of the 100. That's base Reishis. That's two beginnings, because in Torah itself, it's not Rashi's Pirush. The Torah itself, there are two levels of Reishis Chachmi. Love Chachma Tata. The higher Chachma, the lower Chachma, which corresponds to Teresh B'Ksav, Teresh B'Peh, the written law, the oral law. The written law, the oral law. So it's Chachmi law and Chachma Tato, respectively. In brackets, the Mokamachim Bavur, elsewhere it's explained to you, Nam Shacham B'Chin Sev Kalamin, The base rashis is the amshocha. It's all one word, not two separate parallel universes, but we're drawing the transcendent into the mamalak alalmit, as in Pashtus. Teresh Biksav is filtered and drawn to Teresh Balpeh and made understandable. So this is the inyan of what? Of Torah, which is, and he just now laid out this extraordinary heights. Base rashis, two levels of rashis. The Targum says on Bereshis, B'chuchmasa, Chachma, also brought frequently in Chassidus. So that's the Gevaldige Maila of Torah that precedes creation. Nonetheless, Abikurim Shekol Yisrael Kaidm L'Torah. But what's the order? The order is first Bikurim, and that refers to Yidden as we quoted the Psukim earlier. My firstborn, quite literally. Yidden proceed. You have to give truma before you give truma to the kivin shemachshavtim shel Yisrael kodma afilu l'Torah. Because, as we said before, that the machshava of Yidden, the neshamas of Yidden, ascend in Hashem's mind, as it were, even before higher than Torah. So therefore, Yidden are called the beginning of the Eibishter's harvest, as it were. The higher than Torah, which is also called the Eibishter's Tevua, the Eibishter's harvest. Okay, so now we're getting our answer. That be what's the whole Gevalda Bikurim? Because Bikurim refers to Neshamas Yisrael. However, so in Pashtus, now then the address that Moishe Rabbeinu gives right after that, where he didn't enter into the covenant again and the commitment to observe Torah mitzvahs, which follows right after this. Again, the Hashem's name, one of the Sirufim, straddles both of these parshas. So in Parshas, Moishe Rabbeinu is saying to Yidden, before he tells them about the commandments or reviews them or addresses the commitment, you are a Yid. You are a Jew. And you are rooted high in Torah, and therefore you can do this. And moreover, he's saying, what is the inyan of Torah? It's expressing who you are. So we always say Torah doesn't make us Jewish. Torah expresses our Jewishness, and that's what we're seeing here. First the mitzvah bikurim, and then Torah. So how do you express the neshama? That this that Yidden rose up and Hashem's thought, that's what they called bikurim, hide in Torah. That is mitzvah neshama. That's true from the source and root. Ava b'stavshusa b'guv, but the neshama enters into the body. It doesn't just enters. Islabshus means it fuses with the body. So it's a profound descent and compromise of the neshama's former pristine state. Yorda b'madregis, it descends, as we learned in the previous maamar. There's two ways to descend. One is ma'ivir and one is islapshus. Ma'ivir means you descend to that world, but you don't adapt to it. But it's not true of the neshama. The neshama adapts to the guf. So therefore, in order that even as the neshama comes down to the guf, this galib baras mirshar shemekera should be revealed in the neshama lamata, its source. So you need avoid. How do you say adiyinat tefillah? So first of all, it's the end of tefillah. Why tefillah? Shnikra sulam butzav aratz v'rishim geshamayim. The tefillah is the ladder that stretches from in the earth to in the heavens, not just on the earth, but arza. That is shamayim, but shamayim. That, as the Medrash explains, that although the rung is extended, it seemed without end, higher and higher. Also reference to our golos. Each rung is a year in golos, but in general, there are 4 rungs there corresponding to the 4 levels of tefillah. So lashon tefillah, that's the very meaning of the word tefillah. The lashon is chabros, it means to fuse. Leah called Naphtali, because now my husband will join with me. Haino iskashus v'stavgus hanefesh b'shosha. So tefillah is connecting the neshama here, us in the guf with its source. And then it comes to, that's expressed rather, this is ha'tchkes ha'bittul shmonesa, that's the fourth rung. Shmonesa tachlis ha'bittul, and it comes as a result of the levels of Aveda Tilde, lach ha'kdomas, psuket zimra, and then birchas krishma, then krishma. It's the general four levels. Psuket zimra, birchas krishma, kriyashma, and amidot shmonesra. And of course, there are the other levels that are Akdomas and Achonas, and after Shmonesra comes the Amshacha down, all the way to the Aleinu, which is the mission statement that the world should know this God. So at any rate, so that's the end of davening. And that's your forefathers lived on the other side of the river, meaning that's the Shadish Mocker.
He's scared.
Yeah. That's why 3 tefillahs. So usually we have the beard is the tefillahs, the Korban Tomid in the morning and the afternoon, and then Shmonesra because the Kabbalah is still burning on the Mizbeach. Therefore, Ma'ariv is Rishus. But it also corresponds to, the Gemara says, to the 3 Avos because they enacted them. Can I get Gimel Avos? Sharei Tefillas Avos Tiknum. There's 2 opinions of the Gemara. It's a connected avoid and Beis Hamikdash or connected the Avos. Of course, they complement each other. So the Avos connected them. Just at a Chagav. I just said it, that Ma'ariv is not really obligatory because it corresponds to the fact that the Korbanos were still burning throughout the night till midnight. And therefore, Ma'ariv is not an obligation. But Be'emes is higher. The Aved of Yaakov is higher, Rishus. Permission, not obligation, and I won't explain this now, but as Be'emes is higher than an obligation. Like a minig is rooted in deeper place than even the obligation. So this is, we said before that the forefathers, meaning the Shamas Yisrael, their source is where? Is higher than Ishtalshul. So what are the 3 tefillahs? The 3 tefillahs have to be mamshich and draw down the source of the neshama in the neshama in the guf. So this is the connection between Bikurim and Tefillah. As we quoted the Medrash earlier, Kanal, Divrei Medrash at Tefillah is Mevakim Bikurim. Moishe Rabbeinu also will be no longer Bikurim. And so therefore the Tefillahs were established in place of Bikurim. Why? Kivin Shadei at Tefillah, see that Medrash there. Yeah, so Hiskin, the Avos were the ones, who established it, Moishe the Avos. That was the first ones to daven. But Moishe Rabbeinu made that this becomes obligatory. Why? Because Tefillah elevates the neshama to its source, which is what B'chinas Bikurim conveyed in the mitzvah and in the inyan of Bikurim. That's the halal, that's the ascent. But the halal, so through the neshama touching its source, nases gam hamshach lamata. This causes the revelation to come down here. That's what a person would say when he brought his bikurim. He got it. It's a whole declaration that the Jew says he brings bikurim, thanksgiving for the gift of Yisrael and so on, and it begins with he got it. I've related. Because the word Hagoda is Lashon Amshacha, to draw down. He brings it down so tangibly, the brachas, not the brachas, sorry, the neshama's source, that you can see, you can touch with the hands, as the neshama affects the physical world. Lashon deposit, the Hagoda Hayoim. He brings his bikurim, places in the basket. Oh, this is Keseitzik. Okay. I've come to relate today, and so on. He makes his declaration of thanksgiving and so on. Now, Gamakesha, now we'll have the connection to the way the pasuk continues, which is the covenant. Moishe Rabbeinu says, Pashtus is a whole new inyan. We pointed out that not only does it follow, but the last word, udvash, continues with hayom hazeh. Hayom hazeh, vaylekecha mitzavcha lasis chukim ba'ila. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, today God commands you, this is the new Kedushas Bris, for the generation going into Yisrael, commands you to perform the chukim, these statutes, v'shamarta v'asisim v'yisam, you shall observe them and do them b'chol levavcha, with all your heart and so on. It explains in the Koteteres b'chol levavcha, again, the two bases. Aim shnei levavos, two hearts, two levels of the heart. Pnimiyas halev, chitzonius halev, inner level of the heart and the external level of the heart. What is that? Explains. Mishmevayisham, like he explains, the api moshel leben etil oviv, like a moshel of a child in his relationship with his father. Sheyesh beis pchinas ba'avos elev. There are two levels of love that could be expressed, and they are. So when he's still at home in his father's home, that's an inner love, an expression of the inner heart. But if he gets distance, he gets involved in all other things in his mission in life. And so therefore, in terms of conscious connection, it's external. So what does that refer to? Neshama coming down the mountain. So that's the difference between neshama above, where there's an open and conscious and revealed and expressed love. And it's palpable and it's expressed relative. However, compared to the neshama lamata, it's hapish beguf, where that level of love is not revealed and it's only an external connection. This corresponds to the two levels of hidden and revealed. Neshama lamayla, the hidden level is revealed, and lamata is external. So what's the point? The Kedushas Bris mevayisha. The Kedushas Bris means a covenant. That means no matter what, we remain forever committed. Even if we don't feel the love anymore, that's the point of a bris. That's how you make a covenant. Right now, this rapturous love and so on, we don't need to enter a covenant for our relationship to be. You need a covenant where I'm going to be estranged externally and yet still remain essentially connected. So that's in Abid Hashana Sheinis Kashrus B'Nekudas. The bris is to bring out that Nekudas Pnimiyas Halev. That all comes after, he says in Pashas Nitzavim, to remove the external concealment on the heart, which conceals even the chitzonius halev. So that has to be removed. That's Pashas Avedas. That has to be removed. Then even his external level, which is in the hidden state, will be bisgalus, because the pnimius is revealed through it. We don't have the end of the Maimer. All right, so let's look at the, you have to go online. No, it's not online. No, so we'll just read it. Tomorrow we start the last Maimer, which is also very short. And then we'll start the Maimer. There's only one Maimer at Nitzavim. One Maimer is very short, and then we'll start the Maimer Rosh Hashanah, Tavshich Hashem. So to read to you the Teichna in Yonim, Kakisova Yalo Ode, it refers to the Rotz Napitam V'das. You're coming in, so the person's conscious approach to Yiddishkeit is, why are you doing this? Because you understand it's Maila. It's the Tam V'das. But then, in so doing, Hashem promises that you become a Keli, and I will reveal in you a desire for me, which is higher than Tam V'das. Again, it's like marriage. Begin starts dating with all based on calculation, but then as a result of the kiddushin, then a whole new level of connection is revealed that's higher than seichel. It's because we're in essence one. So this is Asher Avay Lekecha Noisin Lecha. That's the rotzen Shalmani B'Tam V'das that Hashem grants after the avodah of kisavay, of avodah of Tam V'das. And he connects it to the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. That what Baal Shem Tov said, that was the first Torah, that when you come to the experience the Ratzon, which is a gift, you got to bring it down into Kalim. Via Shavta, the inspiration has got to be brought down in Oides B'Kalim, as Baal Shem Tov taught. What's Bikurim? And why does this precede the Krisus Bris, the covenant? Because Bikurim refers to Neshama that precede the Torah. Just like in Halacha, you give Bikurim before you give Trumba, which Trumba is Torah Mem, and the other allusions he quoted explaining the connection between Trumba and Torah. And rather, the other psukim he brought, bringing out the mile of Torah, that it also precedes Histalshalos, but nonetheless also called Reishis. But Trumba is Bikurim, not just Reishis. It's primary. But that's all the Sherish Moket. But as it comes down into the Guf, it's the Sherish, the source is concealed. So what's the Avodah of Tefillah? And Tefillah was established in the place of Bikurim, as the Medrash said before. And that's how we elevate the neshama to its source and bring down that source lamata. So that's your forefathers, the Eivar Hanor, that's neshama Yisrael, higher even than Eden. And we mamshech it through that the source of the neshama through Avodas HaTefillah. First connecting to the neshama, and then we mamshech it, connecting to the 4 levels, getting to Shemona Esrei. That's lamata lamayla. And then after Shemona Esrei, the Avodah bring it down. He explained the past Hemshech HaKsuvim, therefore, right after laying bare the neshama higher than Torah, so Hayom Hazeh, Hashem has commanded you to enter b'chol levavcha, with all of your heart, into the covenant. That's acknowledging that there's going to be the love will be concealed, the inner heart and the external heart. That's the source above and coming down lamata. But the covenant means this connection that is forged now forever, that a Yid will be able and can access his Pnimius HaNeshama, the Pnimius HaLev, that should illuminate even the external level of the heart as the Neshama comes lamata, and he says even in a tangible way, and ultimately transform the world. So that's Bekitzer. We don't have the end of the Maimer. That's Bekitzer, the Maimer Ki Savo. Bez Hashem tomorrow again, Atem Nitzovim. The countdown is in earnest today, as you all read, is Ramad Chedav and Pesach Halevi's Yortzeit. We'll say L'chaim after davening, and we encourage everybody to learn a Mishnah or something, some tzedakah extra. Lili Nishmosei. Have a wonderful day. B'suras Tevis.